Sarah Chen wiped sweat from her forehead as she aimed her pulse rifle at the target. Her hands shook slightly from exhaustion. Around her, the other cadets moved with confidence and ease. They had been training for 3 months at the Galactic Military Academy, but Sarah still felt like she was falling behind every day. "Fire!" shouted Drillmaster Vexistar, his voice echoing through the training hall like thunder. Sarah pulled the trigger. A weak blue beam shot from her rifle and barely reached the target. The energy barely made a mark on the practice shield. Next to her, Zethrin raised his weapon. The Zenthari cadet's natural electrical abilities flowed through the rifle, creating a bright beam that burned a perfect hole through the center of his target. Sarah's rifle made a soft beeping sound. The power cell was dying again. "Chen!" Drillmaster Vextar's massive form appeared beside her. The Krillion's metallic scales reflected the lights of the training hall. His forearms crossed over his chest as he looked down at her with disgust. "How many power cells have you used today?" "4, sir," Sarah said quietly. "4." Vextar's mandibles clicked angrily. "Cadet Zethrin has used the same power cell for 2 weeks. Cadet Mordeth hasn't changed hers in a month. And you burned through 4 in one training session." The other cadets turned to watch. Sarah felt her face turn red with embarrassment. Zethrin's electric blue skin seemed to glow brighter as he smirked. Mordeth, a tall crystalline Vorthak, made a sound like glass chimes that Sarah knew was laughter. "You humans are inefficient," said Vextar. "Your species drains energy like a broken quantum drive. No natural abilities. No energy storage. No electromagnetic control. Just weak organic matter that wastes power." Sarah wanted to argue, but she knew he was right. Every alien species in her class had natural advantages. The Zenthari could generate electricity with their bodies. The Vorthak could store energy in their crystal structures for weeks. The gaseous Etherians fed on electromagnetic fields and never needed external power sources. Humans had nothing special. They were just average in every way. "Replace your power cell and try again," Vextar ordered. "And try not to waste this one in 5 minutes." Sarah walked to the equipment station where new power cells sat in neat rows. Each cell was about the size of her thumb and contained enough energy to power a pulse rifle for hours of normal use. She grabbed a fresh one and slotted it into her weapon. "Having trouble again, human?" Zethrin spoke behind her. His voice carried the electric crackle that all Zenthari had when they spoke. "I'm fine," Sarah said without turning around. "My little sister could use a pulse rifle better than you," said Mordeth. Her crystal body made musical sounds as she moved. "And she's only 50 years old." Sarah bit her tongue. Getting angry wouldn't help. She returned to her position and raised her rifle. "Fire at will," Vextar announced. This time Sarah tried to stay calm. She breathed slowly and aimed carefully. Her shot hit the target, but it was still much weaker than the others. The beam looked pale compared to the bright blast from her classmates. 20 minutes later, her power cell was dead again. "Unbelievable," Vextar growled. "Chen, stay after training. The rest of you are dismissed." The other cadets filed out of the training hall talking and laughing. Sarah heard Zethrin mention something about power cell waste and several others laughed. She stood alone with her dead rifle, waiting for Vextar to finish organizing his equipment. "Sit," Vextar finally said, pointing to a bench. Sarah sat down and placed her rifle across her knees. Vextar's forearms moved as he put away training equipment. His movements were precise and efficient like everything else about him. "Tell me, Chen," he said without looking at her. "Why did you join the academy?" "To serve the Galactic Alliance, sir." "Wrong answer. Try again." Sarah thought for a moment. "To prove that humans can contribute to galactic defense?" "Better, but still wrong." Vextar turned to face her. His black eyes were like dark mirrors. "You joined because you want to show that humans are not weak. You want to prove that your species belongs among the stars with the rest of us." Sarah said nothing, but she knew he was right. "The problem," Vextar continued, "is that you are trying to be something you are not. Zethrin doesn't try to be human. Mordeth doesn't pretend to be Zenthari. They use their natural abilities. But you keep trying to use equipment designed for species with natural energy control." "What else can I do?" Sarah asked. "Humans don't have natural abilities." "That's what makes you interesting," Vextar said. "Every other species in the galaxy has evolved specific advantages. Zenthari have electricity. Vorthak have energy storage. Etherians feed on electromagnetic fields. But humans are generalist. You adapt. You improvise. You find ways to survive that no one else thinks of." Sarah looked at her dead rifle. "This doesn't feel like adapting." This feels like failing. Maybe you're using the wrong approach, Vextar said. Standard military doctrine says pulse rifles work best with steady, controlled energy input. That's perfect for most species. But humans are different. Your stress responses, your adrenaline, your heart rate changes. Maybe the problem isn't that you're inefficient. Maybe the problem is that you're trying to be efficient like everyone else. Sarah didn't understand what he meant, but she nodded anyway. Report to medical tomorrow for a full biometric scan, Vexitar ordered. And Chen? Stop trying to be like the other species. Start figuring out how to be human. The next morning, Sarah made her way to the medical bay. The Academy's medical section was run by Dr. Kethara, a healer-class Yithran. The Yithrans were known throughout the galaxy for their medical knowledge and gentle nature. Dr. Kethara was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and large, kind eyes. Her voice was soft and musical when she spoke. Cadet Chen, she said warmly. Drillmaster Vexitar requested a complete biometric analysis. Please lie down on the scanning table. Sarah lay down as directed. The scanning equipment hummed to life around her. Beams of light moved over her body, recording every detail of her biology. Interesting, Dr. Kethara murmured as she studied the readouts. Your baseline heart rate is much higher than our records show for humans. Is something wrong? Sarah asked. Not wrong, just different. Our medical data on humans comes mostly from civilian populations. Colonists, diplomats, traders. We don't have much data on humans under military stress conditions. The scan continued for several minutes. Sarah watched the lights move over her body and listened to the quiet humming of the machines. Fascinating, Dr. Kethara said finally. Your bioelectric patterns are much more active than expected. And your electromagnetic field? It's quite strong for a species without natural energy abilities. What does that mean? I'm not sure yet, the doctor admitted. But I think you should speak with someone in the engineering department. These readings suggest your body might be interacting with technology in ways we don't fully understand. Sarah left the medical bay with more questions than answers. But for the first time since arriving at the academy, she felt like maybe there was something about humans that the galaxy didn't know yet. Sarah couldn't sleep that night. Dr. Kethara's words kept playing in her mind, something about electromagnetic fields and bioelectric patterns. She had never thought of herself as electromagnetic before. Humans weren't supposed to have special abilities like that. At 3 a.m, she gave up trying to sleep and made her way to the Academy's research library. The library was empty except for a few night shift workers. Sarah found a quiet corner and accessed the computer terminals. She started searching for information about human biology. Most of the files were basic: height, weight, lifespan, dietary needs. The kind of information you would need if you were setting up a colony or planning trade agreements. But there wasn't much about humans under stress or in combat situations. Can't sleep either? Sarah looked up to see Grix approaching her table. Grix was a technician class Vorthak, shorter than the warrior class like Mordith, but with the same crystal structure. His forearms moved independently as he carried several data tablets. Just doing some research, Sarah said. Mind if I sit? The engineering tables are all taken. Grix's crystal body made soft chiming sounds as he settled into a chair. What are you researching? Human biology. Trying to understand why I'm so bad with pulse rifles. Grix tilted his head, which made his crystal facets catch the light in interesting patterns. You're not bad with pulse rifles. You're just different. I've been watching your training sessions. You've been watching me fail, you mean? No, I've been watching something interesting. Grix pulled up a holographic display from one of his tablets. Look at these power consumption readings. The display showed energy usage patterns from the training hall. Different colored lines represented different cadets. This blue line is Zethrin, Grix explained. See how steady it is? His natural electrical abilities provide constant controlled power to his weapon. This green line is Mordith. She stores energy in her crystals and releases it in controlled bursts. Sarah could see the patterns. Both aliens had smooth, predictable energy usage. Now look at your line, Grix said, highlighting a red line that jumped and spiked dramatically. It looks like an earthquake reading, Sarah said. Exactly. Your power usage isn't steady like the others. It spikes when you're stressed or focused. Watch this part. Grix pointed to a section where the red line shot up dramatically. This was when Vextar was yelling at you about power cells. Sarah remembered that moment. She had been angry and embarrassed. Your energy consumption doubled when you got upset, Grix continued. But look at your accuracy readings at the same time. Another display appeared showing target accuracy scores. During the same time period when Sarah's power usage spiked, her accuracy had also improved dramatically. I don't understand, Sarah said. I think your body is interfering with the standard power cells, Grix explained, but not in a bad way. When you get stressed or excited, your body generates some kind of electromagnetic field. The power cells are trying to compensate for this interference by outputting more energy. So I'm breaking the equipment? No, you're changing how it works. The question is, what would happen if we designed equipment that worked with your electromagnetic field instead of fighting against it? Sarah stared at the data displays. For months she had thought she was just bad at using weapons, but maybe the weapons were just bad at working with humans. Would you help me figure this out? She asked. Grix's crystals chimed in what Sarah had learned was amusement. I've been waiting for you to ask. This is the most interesting engineering problem I've seen all year. Over the next few weeks, Sarah and Grix spent every free moment in the engineering workshops. They took apart power cells and studied how they worked. They measured Sarah's electromagnetic output under different conditions. They tested how her bioelectric field affected various types of equipment. Dr. Kethara joined their research when she could. She provided medical scans and biological data that helped them understand what was happening inside Sarah's body. Human hearts are remarkable, Dr. Kethara explained during one of their sessions. Most species have hearts that pump blood efficiently and steadily. But human hearts respond dramatically to emotional and physical stress. Your heart rate can double or triple in emergency situations. How does that help with weapons? Sarah asked. Your heart isn't just pumping blood when you're stressed, Grix said, looking up from a modified power cell he was working on. According to these readings, it's also generating significant electrical activity. Much more than we see in other species. They discovered that human stress responses were unique in the galaxy. Other species either had calm, controlled biological systems or they had natural energy abilities that were always active. Humans were the only species that had biological systems that dramatically increased their energy output during stressful situations. It makes sense from an evolutionary perspective, Dr. Kethara said. Humans evolved on a dangerous planet where they needed sudden bursts of energy to escape predators or fight threats. Your bodies are designed to become more powerful when you're in danger. But how do we use that with weapons? Sarah asked. Grix held up a modified power cell. We've been thinking about this wrong. Instead of trying to make you use power cells like other species, what if we made power cells that work like humans? The modified power cell looked different from standard ones. Instead of the usual smooth metal surface, it had contact points designed to touch biological surfaces. Traditional power cells provide steady energy output, Grix explained. This one is designed to draw energy from biological electromagnetic fields, specifically human electromagnetic fields. You want me to power a weapon with my body? Sarah asked. Not exactly. Think of it as a hybrid system. The power cell still provides most of the energy, but it uses your bioelectric field to boost its output. The more stressed you are, the more power it provides. Dr. Kethara looked concerned. Is this safe? We don't know what effects this might have on human physiology. The energy draw is minimal, Grix assured her, less than what a human body produces naturally during exercise, and the contact is just surface level, no invasive connections. Sarah looked at the modified power cell. It represented weeks of work and research. But more than that, it represented the possibility that humans might have something special after all. When can we test it? She asked. The next live fire exercise is in 3 days, Grix said. But Sarah, if this doesn't work, then I'll be back to failing normally, Sarah finished. At least then I'll know for sure. And if it does work? Dr. Kethara asked. Sarah smiled for the first time in weeks. Then maybe humans aren't as ordinary as everyone thinks. That night, Sarah did sleep. For the first time since arriving at the academy, she was looking forward to weapons training. She still didn't know if their theory would work in practice, but she was no longer trying to be like other species. She was ready to find out what it meant to be human. The live fire combat simulation was the most important test of the semester. Sarah stood with her squad in the preparation room, checking her equipment one final time. The modified power cell was hidden inside her standard-issue pulse rifle. To everyone else, it looked completely normal. Remember, Grix whispered as he pretended to help her with her gear, The biocontacts need direct skin contact to work properly. If the standard power fails, you'll need to expose the coupling points. Sarah nodded nervously. Her squad consisted of 5 cadets. Herself, Zethrin the Zenthari, Mordeth the Vorthak, Velash an Ephirian, and Korth, a massive Brulnari with stone-like skin. She was the weakest member of the group and everyone knew it. Today's simulation takes place aboard a damaged space station, announced Drillmaster Vextar over the intercom. Your mission is to breach the station, secure the command center, and eliminate all automated defense systems. You have limited ammunition and power cells. Resource management is critical. The simulation chamber transformed around them. Walls shifted and reformed to create the interior of a space station. The emergency lights flashed red and the sound of damaged life support systems filled the air. Move out, ordered Korth, who had been designated squad leader. They advanced through narrow corridors filled with smoke and debris. The first few minutes went smoothly. They encountered basic defense drones that were easily destroyed by coordinated fire. Sarah tried to conserve her power, taking careful shots when necessary. But she could feel her pulse rifle's energy dropping faster than the others. The modified power cell was working, but only barely. She needed more stress to activate the biocoupling properly. Multiple contacts ahead, Velash reported. The gaseous Ephirian could sense electromagnetic signatures through walls. At least 6 heavy defense units. They rounded a corner and came face to face with military-grade security robots. These were much more dangerous than the simple drones they had fought earlier. Each robot was armed with multiple weapons and protected by energy shields. Spread out, Korth yelled. The squad scattered as the robots opened fire. Energy beams filled the corridor, forcing the cadets to take cover behind damaged bulkheads and debris. Zethrin's rifle crackled with electrical energy as he fired back. His shots were bright and powerful, but the robot's shields absorbed most of the damage. Mordeth used her crystal structure to store and release energy in focused bursts that slowly wore down the enemy defenses. Sarah found herself pinned behind a piece of twisted metal. Every time she tried to raise her rifle, enemy fire forced her back down. Her heart was pounding, but she tried to stay calm and conserve power. Chen, Korth's voice boomed over the noise of battle. We need covering fire on the left flank. Sarah leaned out and fired several shots at the robots threatening Korth's position. Her beams were weak compared to the others, but they distracted the enemies long enough for Korth to find better cover. Power cell at 50%, she called out, checking her rifle's display. Already? Zethrin's voice carried his usual electric crackle, but now it sounded annoyed. We've barely started fighting. The battle continued for several minutes. The squad slowly pushed forward, destroying robots one by one, but Sarah's ammunition was running dangerously low. Power cell at 20%, she reported. 15 minutes into the simulation. Mordeth's crystal voice chimed with irritation. Typical human inefficiency. Sarah's face burned with embarrassment, but she tried to focus on the mission. They had reached the station's central hub, where the heaviest defenses waited. Through the smoke, she could see massive automated turrets and shield generators. Final push, Korth ordered. We take out those generators and we win. They charged into the central chamber. Immediately, the automated defenses opened fire with everything they had. Energy beams, plasma bolts, and explosive projectiles filled the air. Sarah's rifle made the dreaded beeping sound. Power cell at 5%, damn it! She cursed, taking cover behind a support pillar. Chen, what's your status? Korth demanded. Power cell critical, she admitted. Power cell at critical. She heard Vextar's voice echo over the training chamber speakers. Cadet Chen, you're becoming dead weight to your squad. Sarah felt her heart rate spike with anger and frustration. Her teammates were fighting desperately while she hid behind a pillar with a dying weapon. I need a new power cell, she called out. No spare cells available, Vextar announced. You must work with what you have. Sarah's rifle display showed 2% power remaining. Around her, the battle raged. Zethrin was firing rapidly, his natural electrical abilities keeping his weapon charged. Mordeth released stored energy in devastating bursts. Velash fed on the electromagnetic chaos of the battle, making her stronger by the minute. And Sarah was useless. Power cells. Drillmaster Vextar's voice boomed through the chamber. You need power cells, Chen. Without them, you're nothing. Something snapped inside Sarah's mind. Months of frustration, embarrassment, and failure came together in a surge of pure anger. Her heart hammered against her ribs like it was trying to escape. Her hands shook with adrenaline. She looked at her rifle. 1% power remaining. Then she remembered Grix's words. The biocontacts need direct skin contact. Without thinking about safety protocols or regulations, Sarah ripped open the rifle's power housing. Inside, she could see the modified power cell with its biological coupling points. They were designed to touch skin, but they were supposed to be used gradually, carefully. Sarah didn't have time for careful. She pressed the biocoupling directly against the pulse point on her wrist, where she could feel her heart pounding at twice its normal rate. The rifle's display exploded with light. Power levels shot from 1% to maximum in an instant, but the readings kept climbing beyond maximum. The display showed 110%, then 120%, then stopped measuring entirely. Sarah raised her rifle and fired. The beam that came out was not the weak blue energy she was used to. It was brilliant white-hot, as bright as a star. The beam punched through the nearest robot's shields like they were made of paper. The robot exploded in a shower of sparks and metal. What the hell? Zethran's voice was full of shock. Sarah turned toward the next robot and fired again. Another devastating beam tore through armor and shields. The robot's explosion took out 2 others nearby. Her heart was beating so fast she could feel it in her throat. Adrenaline flooded her system like a drug, and with each heartbeat, her rifle grew more powerful. Impossible! Mordeth's crystal voice had lost all its musical quality. Sarah advanced into the center of the chamber, firing continuously. Each shot was more powerful than the last. The automated turrets that had been giving her squad so much trouble melted under her assault. The shield generators overloaded and exploded. In less than 30 seconds, she had destroyed every enemy in the room. The simulation ended. The false walls and enemies disappeared, leaving only the normal training chamber. Sarah stood in the center, her rifle still humming with energy, her heart still pounding with adrenaline. Her squad mates stared at her in complete silence. "Simulation complete," announced the computer. "Mission success. Time, 17 minutes 34 seconds. Drillmaster Vextar's heavy footsteps echoed through the chamber as he approached Sarah. His 4 arms were crossed, and his black eyes reflected the light from her still glowing rifle. "Cadet Chen," he said slowly, "explain what just happened." Sarah looked down at her rifle. The power display was still showing readings that should have been impossible. The biocoupling was still pressed against her wrist and she could feel it drawing energy from her pulse. "I plugged it into my pulse, sir," she said simply. Vextar's mandibles clicked once, then twice. Then he made a sound that Sarah had never heard before. It took her a moment to realize that the Drillmaster was laughing. "You plugged it into your pulse," he repeated. 3 months of the worst marksmanship scores in Academy history, and you solved the problem by plugging your weapon into your heartbeat. Sarah nodded, not sure if she was in trouble or not. "Sir," Zethran said hesitantly, "her power readings are still off the charts. How is that possible?" Vextar looked at each member of the squad. "That, cadets, is a very good question. Chen, report to the research lab immediately, and bring that rifle with you." As Sarah left the training chamber, she heard Mordeth's crystal voice whisper to Velash, "No wonder they've been winning so many battles. They're not just adaptive. They're completely insane." Sarah smiled as she walked toward the research lab. For the first time since arriving at the academy, someone had called humans something other than weak or inefficient. Being called insane felt like a compliment. Within an hour of the simulation, Sarah found herself in the academy's main research laboratory, surrounded by some of the most brilliant minds in the galaxy. Dr. Cathera was there, along with Grix and several senior researchers she had never met before. Drillmaster Vextar stood nearby, his forearms crossed as he watched the proceedings. "The power readings are impossible," declared Dr. Thainwix, the Academy's chief science officer. The elderly Quilarian's feathers were ruffled with excitement as he studied the data from Sarah's rifle. "According to our understanding of human biology, this level of bioelectric output should kill her. But she's perfectly healthy," Dr. Cathera pointed out, checking Sarah's vital signs on a medical scanner. "Heart rate is elevated but stable. No signs of cellular damage or energy depletion." Sarah sat on an examination table, still holding her modified rifle. The biocoupling was no longer attached to her wrist, but the weapon still showed higher than normal power levels. "Can you explain what you were thinking when you made the connection?" asked Dr. Vexnall, a Yithran researcher who specialized in bioelectric phenomena. "I wasn't really thinking," Sarah admitted. "I was angry and frustrated. My power cell was dead. My squad was counting on me, and Drillmaster Vextar was yelling about power cells. I just did it. She was under extreme stress, Grix noted, showing his own data recordings. Look at these electromagnetic readings from the simulation chamber. When Sarah attached the biocoupling, the entire room's electromagnetic field shifted. That shouldn't be possible, Dr. Thainwicks muttered, studying Grix's data. Humans don't have natural electromagnetic abilities. Maybe we've been wrong about human biology, suggested Dr. Cathara. Our data on humans comes primarily from peaceful interactions. Colonists, diplomats, traders. We don't have comprehensive data on humans under extreme stress conditions. Drillmaster Vextar stepped forward. Doctor, access the military archives. Look up human combat performance over the past 50 years. Dr. Thainwicks's feathers fluffed as he accessed the Academy's military database. What am I looking for? Anomalous performance reports, Vextar said. Situations where humans achieved impossible victories or displayed capabilities beyond their supposed limitations. The research team spent the next several hours reviewing military records. What they found was disturbing and fascinating in equal measure. Here, Dr. Vexnall pointed to a report on the holographic display. Battle of Kethra Station. Human Marine unit held off Korthak raiders for 6 hours, despite being outnumbered 10-1. The Marines' weapons showed 60% higher energy output than standard specifications. New Avalon Colony Defense, Dr. Cathara read from another report. Human colonists repelled 3 waves of Zefkari attackers. Their energy weapons somehow maintained peak performance throughout the 12-hour battle, despite no resupply. Siege of Omega Point, Grix added, his crystal body chiming with excitement. Human forces fought for 3 days straight. Their equipment failure rate was actually lower than normal, despite extreme combat conditions. Report after report showed the same pattern. When humans were pushed to their limits, when they were desperate or angry or fighting for their lives, their performance exceeded all theoretical predictions. It's not just weapons, realized Dr. Thainwicks. Look at these medical reports. Humans wounded in battle often continue fighting with injuries that should incapacitate them. Their bodies seem to generate energy when damaged. And here, Dr. Vexnall highlighted another section. Psychological profiles show that humans become more focused and determined under stress, not less. Most species experience decreased performance when frightened or desperate. Humans experience increased performance. Sarah listened to the discussion with growing amazement. All her life she had been told that humans were average. Not particularly strong, not especially smart, no natural abilities. Just another species among hundreds in the galactic community. But the data suggested something different. Sarah, Dr. Cathara said gently, would you be willing to undergo some tests? We need to understand what's happening to your body when you're under stress. What kind of tests? Sarah asked. Nothing dangerous, the doctor assured her. We'll monitor your bioelectric output while we artificially create stress conditions. Exercise, time pressure, simulated combat scenarios. We need to understand the mechanism. Sarah agreed, and the testing began immediately. They had her run on a treadmill while connected to bioelectric monitors. They gave her complex puzzles to solve under time pressure. They had her practice marksmanship while Drillmaster Vextar shouted criticism and insults. With each test, the results became clearer. Remarkable, Dr. Thainwicks murmured as he studied the readouts. Her bioelectric output increases exponentially with stress levels. Under normal conditions, she generates about the same electromagnetic field as any other species. But when stressed, the display showed Sarah's electromagnetic output during the simulated combat test. The readings spiked dramatically whenever she was under pressure. It's her heart, realized Dr. Cathara. The human cardiovascular system is unlike anything else in the galaxy. When stressed, a human heart doesn't just pump blood faster, it becomes a biological power generator. Other species have stress responses, Dr. Vexnall pointed out. Why are humans different? Evolution, said Grix, his forearms moving as he pulled up historical data about Earth. Look at this. Humans evolved on a planet with extreme predators and environmental dangers. Their stress response had to be immediate and powerful enough to help them escape or fight threats that could kill them instantly. So their bodies learned to generate more energy when in danger. Dr. Cathara continued. Not just adrenaline for strength and speed, but actual electromagnetic energy that can power external devices. But that's not the most interesting part. Drillmaster Vextar said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. The most interesting part, he continued, is that this response makes humans more dangerous the more desperate they become. Every other species in the galaxy becomes weaker when cornered. Humans become stronger. The research team fell silent as the implications sank in. That explains the military reports, Dr. Thainwick said slowly. Human forces that should have been defeated. They weren't just fighting harder, they were literally generating more power, and their equipment was performing beyond specifications because the humans were unconsciously powering it with their bioelectric fields, added Dr. Vexnall. Sarah, Dr. Kethara said, this changes everything we thought we knew about human capabilities. You're not inefficient with standard power cells. You're designed to work with a completely different type of energy system. Sarah looked around at the group of alien scientists and military officers. What does this mean for humans in the galactic community? Drillmaster Vextar's mandibles clicked slowly. It means we've been dramatically underestimating your species' military potential. Every human soldier is a walking power generator that becomes more effective under stress. It also means, added Dr. Thainwicks, that we need to completely redesign our understanding of human technology integration. Your species shouldn't be using standard equipment at all. Can we develop more weapons like Sarah's rifle? Grix asked. Not just weapons, Dr. Kethara said, her voice filled with excitement. If humans can power rifles with their bioelectric fields, they might be able to power any technology. Ships, medical equipment, communication devices. The applications are endless. Sarah felt a strange mix of pride and concern. She had wanted to prove that humans belonged in the galactic community. But this discovery suggested that humans might be more powerful than anyone had imagined. There's one more thing, Drillmaster Vextar said. Sarah, your performance in the simulation wasn't just about power output. Your accuracy and tactical thinking also improved under stress. The galactic military is going to want to study this phenomenon very carefully. As the research session ended, Sarah realized that her discovery would change more than just her own military career. It would change how the entire galaxy viewed humanity. She just hoped it would change things for the better. 6 months later, Sarah stood at attention in the Academy's main graduation hall. The massive chamber was filled with cadets from dozens of species, their families and military officials from across the galaxy. But all eyes were on the small group of humans who were about to make history. Sarah wore a modified uniform that incorporated biocoupling points for her weapons and equipment. The technology that had started as Grix's experimental power cell had evolved into a complete military system designed specifically for human physiology. Today, announced Admiral Korthvex, the Academy's commanding officer, we witnessed the graduation of the first pulse-integrated combat unit in galactic history. Sarah's squad had been completely reorganized after her discovery. Instead of being the weak link, she was now the squad's primary weapons specialist. 3 other humans had joined the unit. Marcus Webb, a former Earth military engineer, Lisa Park, a colonial defense veteran, and David Chen, no relation to Sarah but sharing her natural ability to generate bioelectric energy under stress, the development of pulse integration. Technology has revolutionized our understanding of human military capabilities, the Admiral continued. These cadets represent a new era in galactic defense. In the audience, Sarah could see Drillmaster Vextar sitting with other senior military officials. Over the past months, he had become humanity's most vocal advocate in the galactic military hierarchy. His reports on human combat potential had reached the highest levels of Alliance Command. Dr. Kethara and Grix sat in the research section, surrounded by scientists who had come to study the Pulse Integration Project. The technology had applications far beyond military use. Human medical teams could now power emergency equipment with their own bioelectric fields. Human engineers could troubleshoot malfunctioning systems by directly interfacing with them. Cadet Chen, Admiral Korthvex called. Sarah stepped forward and saluted. Your discovery has not only changed your own career trajectory, the Admiral said, but has fundamentally altered how the Galactic Alliance views human integration into our military forces. You are hereby promoted to specialist rank and designated as the primary instructor for pulse integration combat techniques. Sarah accepted her new rank insignia, but her mind was on the broader implications of what they had learned. The Pulse Integration Project had revealed something disturbing about humanity's place in the galaxy. After the ceremony, Sarah found herself in a private meeting with Admiral Korthvex, Drillmaster Vextar, and General Thexara, the Alliance's senior military strategist. Specialist Chen, General Thexara began. We need to discuss the strategic implications of your discovery. The general was a Mordani, a species known for their analytical minds and long-term thinking. Her 6 eyes studied Sarah with clinical interest. Over the past 6 months, the general continued. We've reviewed every major human military engagement of the last century. The pattern is unmistakable. Human forces consistently achieve victory in situations where they should logically fail. And now we understand why, added Drillmaster Vextar. Human warriors don't just fight harder when desperate, they literally become more powerful. Admiral Korthvex activated a holographic display showing combat statistics. Human units have a 67% victory rate in battles where they're outnumbered 3-to-1 or more. No other species has a victory rate above 30% in similar situations. But that's not what concerns us most, General Thexara said quietly. What concerns us is that humans achieve their greatest victories when they're angry. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. What do you mean? Every major human military success has involved situations where human forces were defending something they cared about, the general explained. Their homes, their families, their freedom. When humans fight for survival or revenge, their performance increases beyond all mathematical predictions. The Korthak learned this the hard way, Drillmaster Vextar added. When they attacked human colonies, they expected quick victories against a primitive species. Instead, they faced colonists who fought with weapons that somehow never ran out of power, and soldiers who seemed to get stronger as the battle continued. Are you saying we're dangerous? Sarah asked. We're saying you're unique, Admiral Korthvex replied. Every other species in the galaxy becomes less effective when pushed to extremes. Humans become more effective. From a strategic perspective, this makes human forces incredibly valuable as allies and incredibly dangerous as enemies. General Thexara pulled up another display showing current galactic politics. Several member species have expressed concern about human military expansion. They're worried about what happens if humans ever decide they don't want to be part of the Alliance. Sarah realized they were talking about the possibility of humans becoming a threat to galactic stability. That's not who we are, she said firmly. Humans joined the Alliance because we believe in cooperation and peace. We know that, Drillmaster Vextar assured her. But some species are having trouble accepting that a primitive species like humans could potentially challenge their military dominance. Which brings us to your new assignment, Admiral Korthvex said. You and your pulse-integrated unit will be deployed to Frontier Station Omega. It's a joint Alliance facility near the edge of disputed space. What's our mission? Sarah asked. To prove that human military capabilities are used in service of the Alliance, not in opposition to it, General Thexara explained. Recent Zefkari raids in that sector have been increasing. Several Alliance species have requested human military support. They want to see if the stories about human combat effectiveness are true, Drillmaster Vextar added. And they want to see it demonstrated in defense of Alliance territory. 3 weeks later, Sarah and her pulse-integrated squad arrived at Frontier Station Omega. The station was a massive structure that served as a trading post, diplomatic center, and military outpost. Representatives from dozens of species lived and worked there. Sarah quickly noticed that their arrival caused quite a stir. Aliens would stop their conversations to stare as the human squad passed by. Some looked curious, others looked worried. They've all heard the stories, Marcus Webb observed as they settled into their quarters. Half of them think we're super soldiers, the other half think we're dangerous primitives. Let them think what they want, Lisa Park replied. We'll prove ourselves when the time comes. The time came sooner than expected. 2 days after their arrival, Zefkari raiders attacked a civilian transport convoy near the station. The convoy was carrying refugees from a recent natural disaster, families with children, elderly civilians, medical supplies for disaster relief. The station's defense force responded immediately, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. The Zefkari had brought 3 heavy cruisers against the station's 2 defense frigates. All units to battle stations, the station commander announced. This is not a drill. Sarah and her squad rushed to their assigned combat positions. Through the station's viewports, they could see the battle raging in space. The Zefkari ships were systematically destroying the refugee convoy, while the station's defenses tried desperately to intervene. Pulse Integrated Squad, report to Hangar Bay 7, came the order. You're being deployed in boarding pods to support the frigate Endeavour. As they suited up for combat, Sarah felt her heart rate increasing. Not from fear, but from anger. The Zefkari were attacking defenseless refugees. Children were dying while the raiders laughed and claimed their prizes. Her pulse-integrated rifle hummed to life as her bioelectric field responded to her emotional state. "Squad ready," she reported. To the hangar bay commander, "Remember?" the commander said. "The whole station is watching this deployment. Show them what humans can do." The boarding pods launched from the station like bullets racing toward the embattled frigate Endeavour. Through her pod's viewport, Sarah could see escape pods fleeing from the destroyed refugee ships. Some of the pods had been damaged by raider fire and were venting atmosphere. People were dying, and Sarah's anger burned hotter. When their pods docked with the Endeavour, Sarah's squad found themselves in the middle of a desperate battle. Zefkari boarding parties had breached the ship's hull in multiple locations. The frigate's crew was fighting room by room to prevent the raiders from taking control. "Humans are here," someone shouted as Sarah's squad emerged from their boarding pod. "About time," replied the frigate's captain, a grizzled Brulnari veteran. "We're being overrun on decks 4 through 7. Can you help us retake engineering?" Sarah checked her rifle's power display. Her anger at the raiders attacking civilians had pushed her bioelectric output to maximum levels. The weapon was practically glowing with stored energy. "Yes, sir," she said grimly. "We can help." What followed was unlike any battle the Endeavour's crew had ever witnessed. Sarah's squad moved through the ship like a force of nature, their weapons firing beams of energy that cut through Zefkari armor like paper. The raiders had never faced humans in combat before, and they were completely unprepared for warriors whose weapons grew more powerful as the battle became more desperate. Within 30 minutes, the boarding parties had been eliminated. The Endeavour's crew stared at the human squad with a mixture of awe and concern.